destruction is bigger than any storm that we'll ever go through. And the disciples, they learned something from, the disciples learned some things through this storm that they might not have learned any other way. See, we might do the same thing. See, they learned something about their faith. Wow, faith. Every time Jesus did something, every time somebody came to him and asked, Lord, my child is sick, or would the centurion come and say his servant was dying, could you come? And he's like, no. The lady, the Samaritan lady, fell at his feet. Can you come and save my daughter? What did he always say? The man with leprosy, the man that was blind, he always asked, do you believe? Do you have faith? What kind of faith do you have? You see, there's a small faith, and then there's a large faith. And let's get off just for a minute. And I want to tell you about the small faith. Do you remember when the man came to the disciples and his son would be convulsing? He'd go into convulsions all the time. And it was the evil spirit that was in him. And the man came to the disciples, but the disciples, they couldn't cast this demon out of him. So Jesus came along, and he said, well, your disciples, they couldn't cast this demon out. Well, why? And what did Jesus say? You have little faith. That's that small faith. That's why they couldn't cast the demon out. Large faith. The large faith. The large faith is when God came to Abraham. And he told Abraham, Abraham, I want you to pack up everything that you have. And I want you to leave this land where you're at and go to the land that I'm going to provide for you. Pack up everything. Leave your relatives, leave everything, and come. Follow me. This is the large faith that I'm talking about. This is the large faith. It's when we put our complete trust in God. Not to stop in the middle and say, okay, Lord, this looks like a good place. I think I'm going to stop here. Until God tells you where to go and where to stop. That's when. You see, he went to Haran. He took Abram to Haran. And Abram's father said, this is good, because this is just like where we left. So this is good. We're going to stay here. That's not where God told him to go. He said, go to the land where I'm going to take you. He never mentioned what it was called, did he? Mm. But see, somebody held him back. But then his father passed away. God didn't hardly give Abraham time to grieve. Well, he was Abram at that time. But he didn't give him time to leave. He said, let's go. Let's go. I got some place for you to be. Let's go. Lot. I don't want to go that way. I want to go this way because it looks like a better pickings this way. Separate yourself. He had to separate himself. Lot went that way. Abram kept going the way God wanted him to go. And what happened to Lot when he got to where he was at? No good. Because he didn't follow and trust in God. Because he didn't see it happening when he wanted it. And that way we are, when it doesn't happen, when we want it to happen, that's when we start getting frustrated and we start doing things on our own. Yep. Instead of trusting in him like Abram did and following him. Yep. And God took Abram to his destination, to Canaan. You see, God is always on time if we would just follow him, if we would just trust him, if we would just have faith in him. So Jesus, what did he ask him in verse 25? He said, where is your faith? You know, he did ask a good question. I don't know where their faith was, you know, but I know where it wasn't. Their faith may have been in the size of the boat that they were in to withstand such a storm as that they were in. Or their faith may have been in their ability to outrow the storm. Because they didn't have, they needed a boat, a motorboat then, didn't they, to get across that water. But their faith may have been in their ability to be anchored So I guess when a squall comes through like this, they would throw the anchor so the boat would just get tossed everywhere. You know, I don't know where their faith was, but I know where their faith wasn't. And it wasn't with Christ, and he was right there in the boat with them. You see, they learned something about their faith from this storm. And so can we. That when God sends a storm my way, I see how many different things that I trusted in besides him. You see, so what if Jesus asked you this morning, where's your faith? Some people will probably have to answer, well, my faith is in my circumstances being just right. But they rarely are. Others would say that their faith is in people helping them. But they rarely do. Some people's faith is only in the pleasures that life can offer them. But they're so short-lived. Then they only have faith in their finances and things that money can buy. But that never satisfies, does it? We never have enough. I think we need to stop trusting in things that we can see and start trusting in the one that we cannot see. The one that provides us with these things that we can see. We need to remember that these things were a blessing from God. I like what Solomon says in Proverbs, I believe it's chapter 3, verse 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. So many of you know that I'm in the prison ministry. Yeah, and I'm heading up there to give the guys a word after this. But there was, well, I think it was a couple years ago, it was a Sunday morning that I was supposed to go to the prison and give the 8:30 message. And it had snowed. So I'm like, wow, you know, it snowed pretty good. So I'm like, okay, man, God, I don't know if I should go or not. Maybe I ought to just call him and tell him I'm not going to come. So I'm like, So I go to my wife. I ask my wife, what do you think I ought to do? And she said, ask God, go and pray. Yeah. That's why I have my wife. She's straight. So I go to God and I say, God, what should I do? Go. That quick, go. Wasn't no waiting, go. Well, I guess I'm going. So I have a little Toyota Camry. And the way I go to Taylorville is I go down Elwood, go across 51 and keep going across the country over to 48. Now, it was okay. It wasn't bad going across, heading west and going across. It wasn't bad. But then when I got to 48 and I turned left, it's like the wind was blowing from east to west. And it was blowing all this snow in my lane. So I'm trying to drive down here, and I'm going south, and I'm trying to drive through here, and if you ever drove through like puddles of water, and it gets in your tire wheel, and you hear that, and it starts pulling you, this is what this snow was doing to me. So I'm like, oh man, first place I see, I'm turning around. Now remember the story I told you about Abram. I said, well, man, I can't find a place. So I got past Booty. And as soon as I got past Booty, the northbound lane, let me come over here, was clear. So I got in the northbound lane and drove south, all the way to Blue Mound. When I got to Blue Mound, I got back over the southbound lane, through town, because it went bad in town. And once I got out of Blue Mound, there's all that snow again on that. What I do, I went right back over, got back in this lane, drove all the way to Stonington. In this lane, got to Stonington, well, got back over in this lane, went through Stonington, there's this snow again. Okay, Lord, you took me this far. I got right back in this other lane, it was clear. And I drove all the way to Taylorville and not encountered one vehicle. Not one vehicle. message. Men gave their heart to Christ that morning. Thanked me for being obedient and coming. That's why he makes your path straight. Because, what? For his glory. Not for ours, for his glory, but it's for our good. And those men, somebody received Christ that morning, man, because I was obedient. That makes me feel good. Yes. That makes me feel good. But that makes my faith in God even stronger. That he will provide a way like that. Just, if you could have been in the car with me, it was crazy. It was unbelievable. I felt like the disciples, man, what in the world is this? I couldn't believe I drove all the way down there and didn't encounter a car. They also learned something about their futures. Because they did get to the other side. They got to the destination, and so will you. You see, God wasn't through with them yet. He's not through with you yet.